Kathryn had known Abdu'l-Baha and had even ridden on the train from San Francisco to Oakland with him, her baby sitting on his lap. She had also gone on pilgrimage in the time of Abdu'l-Baha. Needless to say, Kathryn's soul was fired with her love for the Master and the cause of God. She arrived in Great Falls during a cold spell. Kathryn was a tiny little thing, her body deteriorated with age, so that all that was left was a stack of very brittle bones covered with skin, and all held together with a brace. She jokingly called this brace her harness. When I met her on the train, I warned her, "Kathryn, although the weather is cold, nothing is as cold as the hearts of the people in Great Falls." Her eyes were bright and brilliant blue, and these eyes shot fire. She said, "Don't you worry, Baha'u'llah guides me. Baha'u'llah guides me." She also had 2 of the heaviest suitcases I was ever obliged to carry. Subsequently, when she was settled in her hotel room, consisting of a bed, dresser, moth-eaten chair, and lavatory, the bathroom was at the end of the hall, shared by all the tenants. I was privileged to watch her unpack. First, out came books. There was not just one copy, but several each, of such as gleanings from the writings of the Baha'u'llah and Baha'u'llah and the New Era. Then, wrapped within her clothes, was the finest and daintiest set of china I had ever seen, consisting of teapot, cups, saucers, and tiny plates. Next to appear was a hot plate and tea kettle, then pictures of her loved ones, including 4 or 5 of Abdu'l-Baha, and the greatest name, and of course clothes. In half an hour that room, with its books, pictures, and so on, looked as though it had been lived in for many years. Just the way she looked at Abdu'l-Baha's picture was a joy to see. Such love and tenderness shone in her face and eyes. How she loved the Master. When I discovered that she knew Abdu'l-Baha personally, I pleaded with her to share with me stories of her experiences with him. She responded, "No, go away now. I'm going to pray." So I said, "Okay, let's pray," and I very quickly recited the remover of difficulties. Kathryn looked at me tenderly and lovingly and said again, "Janabi, I am going to pray." Not one to be put off so easily, I said, "Okay, I'll go away and come back this evening, and you can tell me about Abdu'l-Baha." "No," she said, "I told you I am going to pray." "Wait a minute, it's only 2 o'clock in the afternoon. What time will you go to bed?" "I usually go to bed around 9, she replied. Up to this time in my life, the longest time I had ever spent in prayer was probably 5 or 10 minutes. And this little old lady was going to pray for 7 hours. I learned a very valuable lesson and have ever since prayed for longer periods. The first hour, many things crowded to my mind. The second hour, these thoughts clear away. And the third hour, I am immersed in an ocean of spirituality that is beyond description. The remainder of that day Kathryn spent in prayer and meditation. And early the following morning, in spite of the terrific cold and the icy streets, that fearless warrior of Baha'u'llah ventured forth in quest of those ever-ready and waiting souls. Her first contact was with a man so loaded with bundles that he was unable to see Kathryn, and had almost knocked her down as he came rushing out of a door. He began apologizing profusely, but Kathryn, ever alert and ready, assured him that she was quite all right, but if he would come tomorrow at 3 to her hotel for tea, she would give him a message and share with him the most wonderful news. They then exchanged names and addresses. He hurried on, and she proceeded down the street. This was the pattern of her day: the librarian, elevator boy, waitress, man on the corner, whoever caught her eye, smiled at her and spoke, received an invitation. At the end of the day, I truly loved this little old and frail lady. She was so devoted and so self-sacrificing. I said to her, "Kathryn, tomorrow when none of these people come, please don't be disappointed." Those blue eyes again shot fire, and she responded, "Don't you worry, don't you worry. Baha'u'llah guides me. Baha'u'llah guides me." I am sure she was guided, for on the following day at 3 her little room was filled to overflowing. People sat on the bed, the chair, leaned against the wall or the sink, wherever else they would fit. Kathryn and I, with hearts throbbing with the fire of love of God, besought the Almighty for assistance. Kathryn then unfolded the story of the coming of Baha'u'llah in one of the most spiritual talks I had ever heard. You could hear water drip in the sink when she finished. Her audience was so awed and overcome. Little Kathryn, never one to lose an advantage, went through the room serving tea. She then passed out books, giving 1 or 2 people a copy of Baha'u'llah and the New Era, others gleanings from the writings of Baha'u'llah, telling them they could come back to learn more, and arranging her deepening classes. Some said they were too busy and others were not interested. Kathryn thanked them for coming and let them out. Later I mentioned that it might be possible with more tact bring these uninterested individuals to the cause of God. Her clear reply was, "I don't have time. I don't have time." How often do we attempt to pick and choose? "Oh, wouldn't so-and-so make a lovely Baha'i," we say, and subsequently dissipate our time and energies on those who have turned themselves completely away from the face of God. Kathryn put the words of Baha'u'llah into action. If they refuse, pray for them that God might graciously aid them. Suffice it to say, by the end of 6 weeks, that angel with the fiery blue eyes had brought and deepened 9 new souls, raising our community to 15. One other lesson I learned from this eternal sister of mine was the secret of teaching while still maintaining that individual investigation of the truth so vital to our real spiritual development. She would have one of her students read and discuss a passage, and if she felt that they had found the essence, she would move on to the next reading. However, if they missed something vital, after the discussion she would gently say, "Now couldn't it possibly mean?" thus lovingly guiding them to the pearl of wisdom. Had someone come into her class unexpectedly, he would have thought she was the student, and those seeking after truth the teachers. Kathryn was a golden light in my life and in my spiritual development. Even until her earthly end, she continued to guide and inspire us, her children. Her last letter to us explained that she had fallen and broken her back. While she was in the hospital, one of the doctors had accepted the faith, and others were studying. And it wasn't wonderful how Baha'u'llah was using her. Her devotion cannot but cause rivers of tears to shed, for this handmaiden, in great pain, thought only of the advancement of the cause of God.